Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everyone. I am Muhammad Busrami Hendriani. I'm from English Literature Department. Today, I will present about adaptation. I will explain about two topics. The first topic is what is adaptation. The second topic is coming to a film adaptation. I will also give some examples and a short analysis. Adaptation from story to screen. What is adaptation? So, in this session, we will explore the core definition and the process of translating narrative across different media. And then, coming to film, we will analyze the specific transition from sequential art to cinematic experience. And then the last, we will give examples and a bit analysis, a short analysis of key adaptation examples in modern cinema. What is adaptation? Adaptation means changing a story into another form. For example, novel can become a film. A comic can become a movie. A game can become a villain too. Adaptation doesn't only copy the original story, it keeps the main idea, but the form is changed. In the module, adaptation is explained as a process that can move story through telling, showing, and attracting from. Why adaptation exists? Adaptation exists because people like to tell stories again. You know, old stories can become new again. A story from the past can still be interesting today. Adaptation also helps the story reach new audiences. For example, people who don't read books can enjoy the story through a film. There are many examples of adaptation. The first example is Harry Potter from me. It is adapted from novels into films. The story is about magic, friendship, and the fight against evil. The second example is The Lord of the Rings. It is adapted from a fantasy novel into films. The films show adventure, war, friendship, and sacrifice. The third example is The Lion King. You know this film? It has different forms such as animated film, live action film, and stage musical. This shows that one story can move into many media. Forms of adaptation. There are three forms of adaptation. First, telling to showing. For example, a novel becomes a villain. Second, showing to showing. For example, an animated film becomes a live action films. The third, interesting to showing. For example, a video game become a film. Who is the adapter? The editor is the person who changes the story into a new form. In a villain, the adapter can many people. It can be the writer, the director, the actor, the composer, or the editor. They all help to make the story live in a new medium. The module explain that an adapted text is interpreted and recreated in a new medium. Comic to film adaptation. My second topic is comic to film adaptation. Comics and films are both visual media, but they are different. Comics use pictures, panels, and text, but films use moving pictures, sound, music, and acting. In comics, readers can read slowly or quickly, but in films, the movie controls the speed. The module explained that comic readers choose their own pace, while the films control the viewer's speed. Example of comic to film. There are many examples of comic to film adaptation, but we have three examples to show to you. The first example is Spider-Man. It comes from Marvel Comics and becomes film. The story is about Peter Parker, his powers, and responsibility. It is the famous film. And the next, you will know about this film. The second example is Batman. It comes from DC Comics and becomes many film versions. The story is about Bruce Wayne, Gotham City, and his fight against crime. The third example is the Avengers. Avengers, it comes from Marvel Comics and becomes a popular film series. The story brings many superheroes together in one movie. Problems in comic to film adaptation. Comic to film adaptation is not easy. In comics, the pictures don't move, but in film, the pictures must move. The filmmaker must add movement, sound, music, and acting. Sometimes the story must be shorter. Some characters or details may be removed. There are three approaches in comics to film adaptation. The first is type 1. It is very close to original comic. The second is type 2. It keeps the main theme and main characters, but some details change. The third is the type 3. It only uses basic elements like the hero, villain, and setting. In my opinion, like we said before that we will do SWOT analysis and we will make analysis for Spider-Man. In my opinion, Spider-Man is a type To adaptation, like we said before, the villain doesn't copy one comic story completely, but it keeps the important parts. It keeps Peter Parker, Spider Man, his powers, his conflict, and the theme of responsibility. The film changes some details to make the story easier and more interesting to movie audiences. This also explains the Spider-Man keeps important plot elements from the comic, especially Peter Parker's life and superhero difficult. And the last, my conclusion. In conclusion, adaptation is a creative process. It changes a story from one form into another form. Adaptation helps old stories become fresh again. It also helps story reach more people. Comic to film adaptation needs changes because comics and film are different. A good adaptation doesn't have to be exactly the same as the original, but it should keep the main idea and message of story. That is my presentation about adaptation and comic to film adaptation. Thank you for your attention. I hope this presentation is useful. Good evening, everyone.